representing a technology company, while we're not demeaning the power of technology and all the platforms that we have to use, the one thing that's really important and something that Google has strived to keep is the fabric of the real meaning of social. Now, that really stems from our values and cultures. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. First off, in Google is that we want to work with great people who can make a real difference in the world. Now, we call this what we call G for G, which is good for Google. So incidentally, I could be hiring somebody for a particular role in a particular location, but what we're really hiring them for is for Google. So they should be able to perform any role, any location, any point in time. Internal mobility is really huge for us. Now, we want people who are good team players at the very outset. We want people who can think both macro and do micro, which is both ideation and execution is important. We want people who can lead and be led as the situation demands. We want people, I was sharing with Prasad this afternoon at a coffee break, we want people who are serious about their work and not necessarily taking themselves too seriously. Now, we also believe that ideas can come from anywhere. As an example, we have something called an ideas board, where people can post ideas, anything from the next technology that we need to work on, or product that we need to develop, or something that we need to change, or a food that's probably not as good in a cafe, etc. And then Googlers go in and start voting on these ideas. Whichever has the most number of votes is actually picked up, and then we allow the Googlers to kind of form teams and start working on it. So we are using technology as an enabler, but what really we are enabling here is to get the people together to work as teams. Again, this art of being social here. You know, you have Larry and Sergey, who are founders, talk to Googlers every Thursday in what we call, thank God it's almost Thursday. It's again very cultural for us, but you hear these leaders. The leaders are real. You see them, you hear them speak about vision, about what their take is on culture, why did it start, why is it important for us to continue, etc. And then we value diversity, not necessarily because it's a tick mark that we need to have in terms of gender diversity or what have you, but because we believe that the diverse workforce in Google can be a true representation of the user base. And for us, users are very important. Now, when it comes to staffing in Google, there are two things that we do. We definitely use the platforms which are social. If you have looked at our job site in the recent past, there is the layer of social that's been introduced. So when you're searching for a job, you do get an idea about the kind of people that work in similar jobs or in Google, so you can connect with them, you can get to know more about the role, you can ask them to kind of refer you into the organization, etc. That's one part of the story. Now, the process of staffing, which is extremely important for us, is collaborative, consensus-driven, and social in nature. So we have committees and not individuals making hiring decisions. So as a hiring manager, I'm just one of the interviewers who would interview a candidate and then hope that everyone else would love the candidate as much as I did. And then there are multiple rounds of reviews that happen, and those independent reviewers or committees would also like the candidate. So what we are essentially doing here is that we have, one, cut out the entire subjectivity quotient in the hiring process, and two, we are incentivizing an interviewer to hire for Google and not for himself or herself. So the focus is on people, going back to something that I said. So you are creating an ecosystem where you're working with insanely brilliant people. I want to continue doing that. It's indirectly impacting my own growth as a professional and as a person. So I'm incentivized for hiring more of these superstars and hiring for Google. Now the second one is something that is my personal favorite, and we call it G to G, Googler to Googler, and this is in the learning space. Now, if we look at the entire scope of learning in Google, we're talking about a couple of things here. One, on one end of the spectrum, you have the learning function who will develop programs, deliver either online or directly in a classroom setting, etc. On the other end of the spectrum are some of these leadership programs that we have, where we do partner with external coaches and mentors who come in and run the programs. There is a huge middle piece. So roughly about 55 to 60% of our learning programs and interventions is actually delivered by Googlers to Googlers. Now, the team is part of the people operations team. That's what we call HR in Google. Now, in addition to the specific analytics, people analytics function, which is there as part of the people operations team, We also hire a lot of analysts across board in people operations. So it's in the people operations fabric. So we hire traditional HR specialists, we hire consultants, and we hire analysts in what we call internally a 3/3 model. So these are the skill sets and competencies you need in people operations. Now, as far as the people analytics team is concerned, we have a mission that all people decisions in Google are data-based and analytics-driven. And there are 3 tenets that we used, and I'll come to this example in a bit. When we're talking about analytics, we believe that it's important that we measure what matters, because there is enough data that's out there which can be very numbing. It can be mind-numbing. So you need to determine as a team, in collaboration with the leadership or your stakeholders, about what really matters. So measuring what matters is the first tenet. The second one is, again, going back to what the panel was talking about previously, it is important to make meaning out of the numbers. So delivering surprising insights is the second important tenet for us. And the third one is, once you've done that, make it a lifeblood for the organization. So bring the social fabric again. So it's not about a single team sitting in a corner and driving solutions. It's the Googlers who will come together and work on it. See, we are a 16-year-old company. We're going to be celebrating our 16th birthday next year. When we started Google, when we started hiring, we wanted to hire the best people and get them to perform. And then as we grew, there were managers who were there. And but the assumption again was that the managers might not play a significant role in how Googlers perform and develop, etc. But we really wanted to kind of find out. And when we did this study, we kind of, one, proved that managers play a significant role, and two, in order that we kind of up the quotient on manager capability, we figured the 8 important determinants that a manager should have. So what makes a good manager in Google? And then the next one is insights. So how do you deliver insights out of these numbers and analysis? The 8 best practices that I just shared were the insights that came out of this. And the last one is action. So we've integrated this with, like I just said, the upward feedback survey, the manager feedback survey as we call, and then which eventually moves to learning programs for the Google managers. So this is the analytic value chain that we use and the rigor of analytics that we use in enabling us take better people decisions. And eventually it all boils down to this. Eventually it boils down to the fact that people are important. They form the nucleus at Google. The fabric is about keeping it social, getting everybody together to be collaborative, collective in what we do. And the fact that if you give people freedom, they're going to always amaze you. Thank you.